All right, welcome to WhizGirls Academy Super Secret Agent Trainees. Today we have an amazing master agent. She is usually in Miami, but today she's in LA actually, and she's going to share her fabulous story with us. So we'll have time for questions at the end, and we're just going to go through a couple of things. So get your toolkit ready, and here we go. So thank you so much for joining us, Andrea. Tell us
Thank
about your
you.
childhood.
So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to share a couple of pictures. Let me make sure that this is working. All right. Let me know if you can see it.
Yes.
So this is my family now. So I am the oldest of four children. I am 26. My sister Nati is she's turning 24 in a month. My brother Benito is turning 22 in a month, and my littlest brother Lucas just turned 17. These are my parents. And then this is us as babies. I'm 12 in this picture. So just a little bit about my childhood. I was born in Miami, Florida. I lived there for about 2 weeks. And then we went to Mexico for about 8 months. My father is from Mexico and my mom is from Nicaragua. So I am first generation American. We then went to France. My dad was doing his master's in INSEAD. And right after, we moved to Virginia, like right outside of the DC area. And that's when I started school. And so this is another Christmas picture, 12 years old. This is my school uniform. So after JK in kindergarten, we start first grade. First grade is the first year of uniforms. I believe this is me at 9, 10 years old. Really funny. I started school and I didn't know how to speak English. I knew how to speak Spanish and French, no English. And I remember one of my very good friends, dear friends now, Megan Zork, was right in front of me. It was the first day of class, and they were kind of testing our skills to see where everyone was on the map. We were all 4 years old, junior kindergarten. And they asked everyone, to count to 100. And Megan Zork was right in front of me. She counted to 100 perfectly. I could only count to 27. So I was very angry. But anyways, learned how to speak English very quickly afterwards. I never wanted to take a nap ever in school. I played every sport, or I tried to play every sport. My main ones were tennis and soccer. I was terrible at basketball, worse at swimming. My favorite days were field day at school. Field days, like the days that we were put on two teams. The whole school was split up, and we'd had a lot of relay races. And that was definitely my favorite day of school at Stonebridge. It's a Sacred Heart school, all girls from 4 years old to 18. The whole thing. I did all of my school at Stonebridge in Bethesda, Maryland. Growing up, my best friend, and she still is my best friend, her name is Michaela DeLuca. She is Italian, and so we were one of the only two people that spoke fluently another language. So we were kind of like out of the box. She's my best friend. She still is. She went to college with me. Another thing about me growing up, I grew up with these three were my best friends until I was around like 12 years old. And so I was kind of a tomboy. Skateboarded, played Yu-Gi-Oh and Beyblade and all that fun stuff. They made me quit ballet at 5 years old. But it was a great experience. As throughout my childhood, we traveled a lot. So my mom is one of five sisters. They all live in different countries, and so our meetup point was always in Miami. So my childhood was a lot in Miami. They have the U.S. Open. It's called the Sony Ericsson. We used to call it the Sony Ericsson. This is me at the Sony Ericsson in Key Biscayne. That was always something that I remember from my childhood. Every single spring break, we would go, and I would see all the famous tennis players, and that was always really fun. We also traveled a lot to Mexico, so I have a lot of cousins. These are all my cousins. I am right here in the middle, and I'm crying because my brother was a devil child, and he had elbowed me in the face, and my mom said to suck it up and to take the picture. Another fun story from my childhood: my grandmother grew up with 13 dogs. My dad grew up with 13 dogs at this house in Mexico. When I was very little, I got out of the car and I started running to my grandmother, and the dogs saw me as a threat, and they came and tried to attack me. My grandmother picked me up, But soon after, we made friends with all the dogs, and there's a big hill in our house in Mexico. And around Christmas time, we were always ordering things and presents and things like that. And so we would rip up the cardboard boxes, me and my 14 cousins, and we would slide down the hill on the cardboard boxes, and all 13 dogs would be waiting at the bottom to grab the cardboard boxes and run them up the hill again while we went through the house. And so that was always a really fun experience. I did travel a lot growing up. Went to the beach a lot. This is me, a funny picture of me jumping in a pool. And then this is another picture of me with my family. My little brothers weren't here, but this was on, I believe it was on a cruise. But a lot of traveling growing up. My parents thought it was really important for us to be, like very cultured, learn about different kinds of people, religions, cultures, languages. And so that was a really big part of my childhood growing up.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. I love the pictures. So tell me a little bit more about your passions and your hobbies as a child. I know you got into it, but a little bit more. And then also your dream job if you had one.
Yes. So I my dream throughout my whole childhood was to be in medicine. I know that sounds funny, but there was a show called Discovery Health Channel, and I would sit in front of the TV, and it was like, medical shows and whatever. And I loved learning about that. And I remember going from wanting to be a cardiothoracic surgeon, which deals with the heart and lungs, to watching a show called Dr. G Medical Examiner, which was like a autopsy examinations. And then I wanted to do, neuro, which was brain surgery. And then finally, I wanted to get into plastic surgery, but the reconstructive side, not the cosmetic side. So my whole life, for as long as I can remember, I had always wanted to be in medicine. The only thing that countered that was fashion. So the fashion world, the luxury world, and all of that had to do with that. I absolutely loved it. And so I was always with the struggle of one or the other. So my dream was always to become a doctor or to become, some like the next Gucci or the next something like that. And then growing up, I very quickly discovered that the reason that I had such a passion for medicine was really because I thought of it as like the closest thing that you could get to God's work. It is you, and you can see the impact right there in front of you. You're holding a heart in your hands. And I realized that what I really, really wanted to do with my life was give back and help people. I think that for me, there's not really a point to anything if you're not helping people, if you're not giving back, if you're not using your knowledge and your experiences to help others. I really don't think there's a point to anything. And so with that, I started to, talk to my dad a lot about business and the family business, and I got really into that. And so it came to a point where I needed to decide, am I going to be a surgeon or am I going to explore the business side of things? And I did decide to explore the business side of things, because I wanted to be a part of something big and monumental and not something so structured. I wanted to make my own career and my own future. And I think that, when you're part of something so large and powerful, it empowers you to like, give back and really make a change and a difference, as much as a cliche as that sounds. I ended up going to Babson College. I only knew about Babson because my parents went there. It's not a very popular like school in the East Coast. And so people were like, "Oh, you're going to Babson? Oh, where is that?" And I was like, oh, it wasn't like one of those like big name schools, but actually Babson in the Latin American international community is huge. It is the number one entrepreneurship school in the world. Entrepreneurship is, just making your own way, your own business, your own things. And so I never wanted to go to Babson. I had no idea what that school was until the day that I visited it. It checked off all the boxes. I only visited it because, to satisfy my parents. And I went and I left the information meeting and I went onto campus, and that really cliche feeling that you're like, oh, this is where I belong. Like you step foot on the grass and you're like, I see myself here for another 4 years. I actually very much did experience that. And I applied early and I got in, very thankful. I will say my school prepared me so well. Education is so important. And studying in high school and learning to study is extremely important in terms of, your future. And so I graduated Babson, and throughout my Babson years, I was consulting on a lot of startups. Babson every year, freshman year, you have to start a business. You have to start a business within your class. It's a 1-year business. You start it, you source everything, and then at the end you close it. And so entrepreneurship, I feel like runs in the veins of every Babson student. And so graduating, um, I really wanted to go into a startup and work at a startup and be a part of a small team because I'm a very impatient person and I want to see the impact right now. And so I spent 10 months. I was the last person in my class to get a job right outside of graduating college. And I was so upset. I was like, I can't believe this. I worked my whole life and, where am I now? And I got the by the way, huge nerd. I love studying. I love school. If I could be paid to go to school for the rest of my life, I would. And so I had a friend tell me like, oh, I'm getting paid to study. And I was like, what do you mean? And so just start with the Meryl thing. So again, I love studying. If I could be paid for the rest of my life to study, I would. And so when I got the opportunity to start working at Merrill Lynch, big financial firm, I took that opportunity. It's a great company. I absolutely loved my years working there, and I ended up there for about 2 years and 2 months. This was my first day of work. So my first day of work was work from home. The whole pandemic happened. So I bought all these outfits, all my corporate outfits. I was very excited. Didn't get to use any of them for about a year. And so this was my work from home office. My mom took this picture of me to share with my Merrill Lynch team as we were a little bit down on morale. But it was a really, really great experience overall. I have to say, I don't love financial markets. It's not my passion. And so I went into this job knowing that I would get such like valuable like lessons and be extremely well-rounded, but I knew it wasn't what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. My job was, managing other people's money, teaching them how to invest. And it was really great, but I knew that I wanted something else. And so 2.5 years later, I got the opportunity to go to a startup, which was phenomenal. And it required me to, move to a different city every 3 to 4 months, bring the market where it needed to be. I was so excited. I was moving out of my parents' house finally after the pandemic was over. And then 2 months into me living in Phoenix, I totally moved. Everyone at almost everyone at the company was let go because the startup was pivoting and they weren't doing so well financially. And so I was really upset and I was like, I am again at ground zero. What do I do? I feel like I wasted 3 years of my life in this financial path. And that wasn't the case. And so I went back to my roots and I was like, what have I always wanted to do my entire life? I've always wanted to be the next, build the next $1 billion company. And I started to think, I started watching Shark Tank and all of these things to really see where I fit in this whole, ecosystem. And as I was watching all these, pitches and business ideas, I was like, I would have never thought to do something like that. And so I realized that maybe I'm not the best equipped person at my age with my limited experience to build a business that's really going to be, transformative in the world. And so instead of trying to beat all of these, geniuses with experience and these real entrepreneurs at their incredible business ideas, why not be on the other side of the table, on the supporting end? And so that's when I fell in love with venture capital. And so I started my career or my path onto my career in venture capital. Now it was a little disheartening. Everyone was like, oh, to get into venture capital, you have to have experience in venture capital. And I was like, thank you. That is no help, the chicken or the egg idea. And so that was really difficult for me. And another person gave me very sound advice. And it was start meeting people, start talking to people, start networking, start going to conferences, start learning. And I did that for about for 6 months. And on top of that, I found I have a deep value for education. and the level of education you receive. And so I was like, I want to learn from the best about everything there is to know about venture capital. And so I applied to Columbia's venture capital private equity program. And it is an executive program, which means that it's really made for executives, right? And so it's very flexible, it's online. And so I started doing that in the 6 months that I started going to conferences and talking to people. And 6 months without a job, it was a little hard, but I absolutely fell in love with the entire venture capital ecosystem. And that's when I knew that that's where I was supposed to be. And so in my journey of messaging people and chatting with people and asking questions and picking their brains, I came across a friend actually in the Columbia program sent me this young woman's profile, and she had started this entire organization. I mean, like the whole thing. This woman has 48 hours in her day, does it all. She's a model. She's at Stanford. She started this organization. She was in VC. She's a scout for another venture capital firm. And so I met with her, and in the middle of meeting with her, she was like, hey, you know what? We're actually in the middle of some final round interviews. Why don't and we'll see if you're a good fit for the organization. And I ended up interviewing for the team. I remember I wore blue because my sister told me that blue was a trusting color. I wore my glasses too. And I ended up getting the job. And so this organization, what it is the largest organization in the United States and the world actually for Latin Americans in the venture capital ecosystem. So what that means is startups is, you start your company, you have your idea, but you need money and you need the support. And so venture capital firms are companies that provide you with that money and provide you with that capital. They invest in these companies. And so one venture capital firm can have several portfolio companies, which are these startups. And so they don't just invest, though, they support. And so this organization, what it does is it brings together resources for Latin American venture capitalists as well as Latin American founders. And so it was the perfect stepping stone to my future, which ideally would be at a venture capital firm. And so I think that I have the best job in the world. My job is to, every day be communicating with these incredible founders and venture capitalists, making programs for them, getting resources for them. I write the newsletter for La Familia Foundation, and I meet incredible people every single day at all the events that we have, and so I have the most phenomenal experience, and I know that this is where I need to be now in order to where I want to get in the future. That's something very valuable that I learned. There's a difference between a job and a career. Your career is your long term, your job is your now. And as long as your job is in line with what you want to do in the future, that's when you know where you're supposed to be. And so I learned very quickly that every day that I woke up and I had to wake up to do my job, it never felt like a job. I was always really excited to do it. I'll spend extra hours on a presentation watching a movie in the background because I genuinely love what I do. The other thing is, aside from my career, I value giving back a lot. And so right after COVID hit, I joined the board of it's the largest foundation for burned children in the world. This is a picture of, I'm not sure if you can see it very well, but this is a picture of us in Chile. It's a Chilean organization, and we had our board meetings in Chile. I was there this past March. This is from those board meetings. It's a great group of people, a great cause. It's enormous. And then the other one is, this is a picture of me at my Columbia elective. So even though it's online, we got the chance to pick one elective in person. And so this is what was my quantitative intuition class. It was hands down the best class I've ever taken. And this is my class. As you can see, I am one of the youngest people here. And so I was a little scared. I was a little intimidated, but I think the power to talk to people and to go up to people and have no shame and ask the questions is the best power that you can have as a young person. And then very recently, my mom started an organization for the disabled kids in Key Biscayne. And so this was us on the 4th of July. There was a big parade, and so we had our little, cart, or the golf cart with the sign. And so those are the different organizations I'm a part of now, apart from my career trajectory.
That's amazing. At what point did you hear about STEM, and did it really change anything for you?
I lost you for a second. Can you repeat that?
Sure. At one point did you hear about STEM, and then did it change anything for you? Oh, frozen again? Okay, let me do this.
Oh, there. I got it. I
Good?
can hear you now.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Okay.
what did you say? At which point? What?
Did you hear about STEM, and did it change like your trajectory or anything for you?
Yes. So the first time I heard about STEM was actually while I was applying to colleges. People were really putting an emphasis on these STEM programs because a lot of my cousins who were Latin American, it was like the United States valued STEM and particularly women in STEM so much that they were giving, visas and extending, students' visas if they did study STEM because it was so valuable. And so right then I knew, even though Babson College isn't necessarily part of like a STEM program, I mean, it's a business school, it's math, it's finance. And so I knew that it was just, STEM is one of these programs that it leads to innovation, and it leads to the engineering. Like you're working on projects, it leads to, I mean, these transformative things. And same thing with math and finance. And it's, I remember thinking in school, like, oh, like when are we ever going to use algebra? When are we ever going to use calculus? And you actually use it all the time. All the time. Kids, please pay attention in math class. You will need it for the rest of your life. But I'm glad that STEM is now like a formal program. It's not just like, oh, let's study math, let's study engineering and things like in sciences. I think by putting a label on it, it emphasizes the importance of that kind of education in terms of like advancements that can potentially happen in the United States due to these young minds, putting in the work and studying this. That's when I first heard about STEM, and now it's so much more popular. When you invited me to speak at this, I was so excited because, I mean, these girls are learning about it at such a young age. I wish I had known about it and the importance of it, and the impact that it could potentially have on futures everywhere. So phenomenal.
Yeah, that's so true. Okay, so what did you learn when you were 11 that you've kept with you today?
So I will share my screen once more. So this was me at 11 years old. This was my 4th grade graduation, I believe. Yes, my 4th graduation. This is me. I'm right in the front because I was tiny. So 2 things mainly that I really remember. And that last night I was calling my mom. I was like, Mom, like, can you remind me like what I was like at 11? And I remember at 11 years old, at 10 and 11, my mom sat down with each of her kids for a year and did all of our homeworks with us, studied for all of our tests with us, and taught us how to study and how to like hone our individual skills in order to really develop this work ethic. And I really attribute a lot of my like, I guess, like my school success to those years, because it is so important to create these habits at a young age, because then they just become second nature. It's not something that you have to learn as you become older. Forming habits is extremely difficult, especially sticking to them, because what you're used to doing is what you've done your whole life. But when you start at such a young age to form these really important habits, like that's really what sets your, like your path forward. I always, when I was little, I would say, one day I'm going to be like this. One day I'm going to ace every test. One day, one day, one day. To the point where, like, enough with the one days. The one day starts today. You can start changing yourself today. And so that was one really, really important lesson that I learned when I was 11 years old. The other one, equally as important, minorly scarring, was I was at school. I was 11 years old. We were leaving the cafeteria, and there was a janitor at our school, and he always looked kind of funny. He always talked kind of funny, and I like never really understood it. And I was speaking to one of my friends and referring to this janitor, and I tried to imitate what he was doing because my friend didn't know who I was talking about, and I got in trouble. I got in big trouble, and I really didn't understand. I started crying. I was like, I don't want to go to the principal's office. What did I do wrong? And when I got to the principal's office was when I learned that this janitor, he had a disability, and I had no idea. And so the teacher who said, hey, you have to go to the principal's office, thought that I was making fun of. And so that was, I mean, I went home with a million questions, and that was one of the first times that I became so acutely aware of the disabled community. And in that, actually a year later after that, my brother was born, and 2 years after that, he was diagnosed with autism. And so I was already like, I had that like empathy inside of me, that ability to empathize with other people. And I, just very quickly, the awareness of the disabled community is something so important. It taught me to, never judge a book by its cover. That was the lesson here. You don't know what other people are going through. You don't know, what problems or issues they may have. And so the lesson is never criticize, always be curious. Ask a million questions. As a kid, no one is gonna like that is literally something that you lose as an adult, is that you kind of get like embarrassed, or like you don't want to ask too many questions. You don't want to pry. As a kid, it is your job to ask questions when you are unaware of things, when you don't know about things, when you want to learn new things, when someone looks a little funnier, they're acting a little funny, instead of, judging, instead of being quick to make comments, be curious and ask questions. And that's something that I have always taken with me. And those are the two big lessons that I learned when at 11.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. So since you said that, what advice would you give our aspiring secret agent trainees in the audience?
All right, my secret agents. So obviously, don't judge a book by its cover. Always ask questions, and no more of those one days. Your one day starts today. And I think something that is very near to my job and my career path now is fail. Fail, fail, fail at everything, fail twice, fail 3 times, fail 4 times. You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. If you don't try, you're never going to succeed in anything that if you don't try in. And so do not be afraid of failure. I spent a lot of my childhood, until a couple of years ago, like paralyzed with fear of failure. I never wanted to try like certain things because I was like, what if I'm not perfect? What if I'm not great at this? What if I, mess up in front of people? And when you're in a career path like I am, one of the things that we value most about entrepreneurs is they ask you point blank, how many times have you failed? How many times have you started a business and poured your heart and soul into it and it didn't go anywhere? And then they'll ask you, what did you learn from that? So every time that you try something and that you don't think that you did well, I want you to write down what you learned from that lesson. Like, what did you learn, so that next time you can apply that lesson? Because when you finally do succeed, I promise you will attribute it to your failures. So failing is a good thing. It's a great thing. It's when you learn and you're at the perfect age that you are to learn. And so just, dare to take the risk. The other lesson that I want you guys to take away is success is something that you attract. It's not something that you pursue. So I'll break that down for you. You attract success by becoming an attractive person. What does that mean? I'm challenging you that before you're working on all of your goals and all your dreams, you work on yourself. Nourish your mind, nourish your soul. Learn how to be grateful for things every day. Something that I do is that when I'm having a bad day or I'm having a bad situation, I'll pull out my journal and I'll write down 3 things I'm grateful for. And it just like, once you learn to take care of yourself and to, feed yourself, do what you love every day, um, learn like learn as much as you can now, develop your new skills, and become the person that you're always going to want to be. And so in becoming an unattractive person, like not physically, but like your soul, you're going to attract goodness into your life. And so that's something that it's called manifesting. And so when you manifest good things and you send all these good vibrations into the world, you will receive the good vibrations. Whereas if you tell yourself every day, I can't do it, I can't do it, I promise you, you won't be able to do it. If you tell yourself, I can, I will, I'm going to do this, I'm going to learn this, I'm going to get here, you will. I promise you. It's all about how you treat yourself and how that little voice inside of your head, is it nice to you or is it mean to you? If it's mean to you, you got to work on yourself. Is it like, just be kind to yourself, be kind to others. And once you feel like you're achieving this, then go after your goals and your dreams. But it will come. It will come a lot easier if you become an attractive person on the inside.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, so we're going to pivot now to some questions from the students. Here's the first question. You're a money expert. Can you explain how you help people with their finances, and what's the coolest thing you've learned about money and managing it?
Okay, so this is definitely, we'll go back to my Merrill Lynch years. I'm saying this as if it was like 10 years ago. This was literally a year and a half ago. And so what I learned is, a lot of people, it is not a cliche that most men are the ones managing the finances, right? And so the women aren't they're not managing the finances. And so I in my first rotation at Merrill Lynch, I was in like the Bank of America that you walk into with your mom while she's, cashing a check. And so my dad would be like, "Oh, you're a teller." I wasn't a teller. I was in like a little Merrill Lynch office, but so I would see people every day. I could open credit cards, do things on the bank side. I could also do things on the investment side, which is where I was. And I got so many women who I would bring up a conversation of like, "Oh, like, are you investing? How how are you handling your money?" And they'd be like, "No, I don't know anything about that because my husband does everything." Or, "Oh, I never learned how to do that. I hide money under the cushion." And so I very quickly learned that no one has ever taken the time to explain finances to them in plain English. It was always some, tough old guy with a lot of words that no one ever understands about finance. And, you're just sitting there like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And it was like, it's very patronizing to a woman to be, mansplaining these finances. And I was like, I just took these exams. I just learned this, and I had to teach myself in plain kindergarten English how finances work, how the markets work, how to save. And so I was like, well, I can explain it just as clearly and just as easily to young adults, to women who had never had this lesson. So I did so well at Merrill because I got, clients referring other clients, because I had this ability to put myself in the other person's shoes and explain the finances in plain English. One of the most important things that I would teach people is, when you start like saving your money, you want to start investing right away. And I know that word sounds scary. You're like, I don't know what to invest in. I don't know what investment means. I don't know where to start. You can go into, any bank and open up an investment account, and you can pick, do I want it to be aggressive? which is like, like very risky. Do I want it to be medium risky, or do I want it to be not risky at all? So as someone who's like really, really young, you want to put your money in, I would say that you would want to put your money in something riskier, because it has more of the potential to grow, and you're not going to use that money anytime soon, right? We're saving this money. And so as you age, then you start putting into something more like a lot less risky. But the underlying lesson here is you want to start early. You want to start your retirement fund early, whether it's putting $2 a week in the bank, $50 a month in the in some account. Just make sure that you're doing it early. The earlier you start, the more money you're going to end up with when you retire. I promise you that. And so everyone just thought of this as being so scary, and they're like, no, we don't trust banks. Where I'm literally, that cliche of I'm putting money under my mattress is very, very true, and you shouldn't. And so just start early, start saving early, and put it in an investment account that will grow. And that's it.
That's great advice. Thank you. Okay, so you're all about startups and investing. That sounds really exciting. What's your dream for the future when it comes to startups and helping new ideas grow?
Okay. So I'm happy that you asked that question, because actually I completely skipped over it. But so my dream would be to have my own venture capital firm. So my own, I have my funds, and I can control what startups I want to invest in. And with that being said, every venture capital firm has their thesis, or like their mission statement. And it's, I want to invest in these kinds of companies that do this and do that, and, this industry, XYZ. I want to be able to say that I am investing in companies that are going to make some kind of social impact. So I prefer not doing the environmental side. I think that there are so many great firms already tackling that. Guys, we got to take care of our earth. But I want to do something in social impact. So having my own firm and having the power to say, I want to help this company grow, because I know that has the potential to change, how we look at things here, or has the potential to change, the lower class in Latin America. I want to be able to say, like, I helped facilitate this kind of impact, and I'm seeing it, I'm working on it, and it's something that you never get bored of doing as a venture capital list, because you're not working in one industry. You have a ton of companies that you're supporting, and that you're watching them grow. And it's like all your little babies are like growing up, and they're, doing great things in the world. And to have the power to say, I want to choose this company over this company, because I know that this company is going to make a greater difference, is an extremely, extremely big deal for me. And so my top two causes that I support are just education as a whole. I think education is the most important thing. If I can bring education and different technologies and tools into countries that aren't as fortunate, that's something that I would love to do. And the other one is the disability community. So I went to a conference and I watched this incredible woman speak. Her name is Genevieve Klein, and she is the first woman and first person to ever have a venture capital firm solely dedicated to funding startups that cater to the disabled community. And so a fun fact that I learned is that, a lot of the technology that we use today was originally created for the disabled community. So for example, Alexander Graham Bell invented the phone. He invented the phone because his wife was, I don't know if it was deaf or mute. And look at us now. We all have cell phones. And so I think that that demographic is that group of people is very much overlooked. And I think that, serving them and including them could have much bigger implications than people think. And so those are my two dreams would be to fund startups and education, and in the disabled industry, and just really having the power to decide, this is where I want to put my money, this is where I want to make a difference, and then see that difference in the future.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. 2 more questions from the students. So you're graduating from Columbia Business School soon. That's a really big deal. What's something super cool you've learned that you want to use to help people?
What is something very cool that I've learned? I would say, I think I touched upon this a little bit before, but I was extremely intimidated going into this program because it is made for executives and people that have had careers that they just, they want to add knowledge to themselves. And so I'm here, like, I am starting from zero. I am starting over. I have no idea, what all the different terms in venture capital were. And I was extremely, extremely intimidated. And then I found out that I was like one of the youngest people in the class. Out of the 72 people, there was 12 women. And so I was terrified. And I very quickly learned that I just was continuously underestimating myself. Like, why should my age have anything to do with it? I always thought that, like, oh, I'm too young. No one is going to find me credible. Everyone's going to say, like, why are you taking this course? And it was the complete opposite effect. Everyone was like, congratulations on finding out what you want to do for the rest of your life, because it is so often that people, don't take the risk, don't take the leap. They don't go after what they love because they're comfortable, or because, they just like, they're not in a situation or circumstances that they can. And I just found all these people saying like, wow, you're so young. Congratulations. I can't believe you're in class with us. What led you here? And I found that these people, like, I could really hold a conversation with these adults and be included in this conversation. And not one of them ever underestimated me. And so the biggest lesson that I learned at Columbia was, like, the only person stopping you from moving forward is yourself. That is the overall, like, thing that I learned. Of course, I've taken incredible classes, but I think that, like, that was the most important thing to learn, is the only thing stopping you is you. And it gave me so much more confidence. In my job today, we have events all the time, and I'm like, oh, should I talk to this person? I don't know. And it's like, you go right up to that person, you ask their questions, you communicate with them, you just be fearless, because at the end of the day, the only person underestimating you is that little voice inside your head, which is why I told you, nourish yourself and your mind, and love yourself, and be confident in yourself, and know what you bring to the table, and just never underestimate yourself, because that at the end of the day, that's what stops you from moving forward.
So true. And did you tell us how long this program is?
Yes, it's 1 year, just 1 year. So I actually just finished my last elective, and I graduate on November 16th and 17th, I believe. But it's just 1 year. It's online. It's about like 4 hours a week tops of work. And so it's very, very flexible. 95% of the people doing it have jobs on the side. Have their main jobs.
Yeah, that's awesome that you're doing it now, because you're set on your path. And I think that's part of the issue with a lot of students that I've come across. Like, they don't know what they want to do. They don't know what their dream job is. And I always say, like,
totally fine. I was so stressed going into college, and I was like, I don't know what I want. I need to decide now. I need to have the right internships. I need to do this. No, you don't. When you get, your job is to experiment. Like I said, try and fail. I learned a lot of valuable lessons at Merrill Lynch, but I realized that I didn't want to be like.
uh-oh. Seems like you froze again. Can you hear me? You can hear me? Okay, good. All right, so it looks like you're frozen. Maybe, do you want to go out and come back again really quick? Like some tech issues, but we're good. We're back. All right, so last question. You're a superhero who makes big impact. What's one thing you want to achieve that would make the world even better for kids and people in the startup world?
Ooh. I think that the reason that I got into business was to make it big enough so that I could have the power to give back. And I think that like once I do, my dream would definitely be to like bring these lessons and this kind of education that you really so you go to college and you pick, you know, what you want to study, and that's, you know, that's going to be your path. And I think that in high school and middle school and lower school, it's all about, you know, like learning a little bit of everything. But I think that schools right now, they like skip over such like important things. There's, you know, not a lot of finance programs, you know, no one knows how to manage their money. These just like everyday things. And so if I could at one point be influential enough to be able to influence, like, hey, this is so important for kids to learn at a young age, like that would be the dream. And then to be able to like see like these kids and where they go and their potential, and follow them is enormous. And so yeah, I think the dream is definitely to give back, period. And like I said, education is something so valuable that not everyone has. I can't stress that enough. I know people are like, oh, I don't want to go to school, I don't want to wake up, it's so early, I don't want to do homework, yada yada. I promise you, the day that you realize that you are so lucky to be receiving any form of education, because there are so many children out there that are robbed of this opportunity, you will be grateful every day that you're going to school. You will be grateful every day. And so that, just the value of education, if I can instill that in children by giving back, that's the goal.
That's awesome. Thank you. All right, we're going to do a quick 60-second round. So,
right.
Ready?
Yes.
All right. So, what's the toys that you grew up with? Which toys?
So again, I grew up with those like 12, those three boys until I was 12. And so we would play Yu-Gi-Oh, which was like kind of like the little Pokemon cards. Obviously, I would only go with like the pink ones because those are like, I didn't know anything. And there was also a toy called Beyblade, and it was like these little like things that spun in like this plastic arena, and you would like pull something and they would spin really fast, and the other person on the other side would pull it, and they would kind of like battle in the middle. It was really fun at the time. Though that was, I love those toys.
Nice. So no Barbie or Bratz for you.
I did have some Barbies, but it could never hold my attention. Like my sister loved them, and so I would play with her a lot. And I liked dressing them. I loved dressing them and the different outfits, and you know, this is the fashion one, and like, and the whole like makeover. You know, there were those heads in Toys R Us.
Oh yeah.
That like with the hair.
I worked on those heads actually.
I loved them. And I would like braid them and I would style them. And so I loved that part. But then just like playing with dolls wasn't like entertaining enough for me. I had to I had to do something else. I had to like stimulate my brain in different ways. And so you know, dressing dolls, like putting makeup on them with like the little weird glitter pots that they had on those like doll heads. And then those like the boy toys. The boy toys are always more fun. Hot Wheels, love the Hot Wheels. Those are definitely my childhood favorites.
Nice. What about video games?
No video games. I had a PSP, and I used to play Sonic. Sonic, no, not Sonic. It looked like Sonic, but he was orange. And he would just like go around and like collect the coins and whatever. But that's really the only video game that I played. Aside from like when we got older, we would play like Wii, tennis, and stuff like that. Now, I'm proud to say I still really like Mario Kart. I play that a lot with my friends. I'm really bad, but no video games for me really. I always got like a little bored of them, and I have a terrible quality. I don't like the things I'm not good at, and so when I couldn't figure it out, I was like, no, I'm doing the next thing. Don't do that. persevere. But I was not a fan of the video games.
All right. What about sci-fi, like Star Trek or Star Wars?
Oof, I am such a dork for anything that has to do with magic. I just finished watching all the Harry Potter movies again for the 10th time. I love Star Wars. When I was little, it would annoy me because I was confused. Like the plot was like more confusing, and as I got older, okay, like I understood. I am Another thing I'm proud of. I am a Disney adult. I love Disney. I love magic. I love Disney princesses. My favorite movie of all time is the Beauty and the Beast, the live action one, and then the character one, Mulan. Mulan is all my life lessons. A lot of them were from Mulan. Love that. So everything sci-fi, fantasy, all of that. Big fan. Big fan.
Awesome. And what about recently favorite TV show or streaming, whatever, anything TV?
Ooh, you know what? I actually just started watch. I was really annoyed because they only released 3 episodes, but it just came out and it's actually based on like a bestseller, and I think it's called Shelter, and it's on. I want to say that it's on Amazon Prime, but it's like mystery after mystery after mystery after mystery. I'm pretty sure it's like kid friendly. It's like about like some kids in high school. But aside from that, my all time favorite show is Criminal Minds and Grey's Anatomy, not because of the drama aspect, but because of like the medical aspect. And then Criminal Minds is about like different kinds of serial killers, like the psychology behind like how those people like turned out the way that they are, is so interesting for me. And like, I love watching surgeries on Grey's Anatomy. And you know what? I genuinely love watching television and I love watching movies. I think that if you watch the right stuff, you can learn.
Uh-oh, you froze again.
Watch it because it's like in another world, I'm a doctor and like I just live vicariously through these doctors. But I love like secret agent stuff. Whenever I watch secret agent stuff, I always want to be a secret agent. And so I think they can be very useful to inspire people. Just run it by your parents first, make sure it's all good. But yeah, those are my favorites.
Awesome, thank you. All right, so a couple more things. How can the super special secret agent trainees follow your journey? Is it Instagram? Do you have a website? Like where can they be in touch?
So I know that at probably that like younger age, they're not on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is definitely like the best place to find me because I'm posting a lot about like my job, what I'm doing, the different events that we're organizing and things like that. If not, I very recently made a Twitter. I think I have about like 19 tweets. I have to start like revamping it. Twitter is very big in the venture capital community and the founder community. So my Twitter is La Gringa VC because I'm not Latin and I'm not American, and so I feel like I never fit in. So my nickname when I was little, when I would go visit my cousins, but they would call me like La Gringa, like the American girl. And so I think that like speaks to a little bit about my character and like how I grew up and things like that. And so that is my Twitter. Not a lot of tweets there, but maybe if I see a couple of followers coming in, I'll start tweeting more about my journey. But those are definitely the top 2 places to follow like my career, my journey, where I am. Please feel free to reach out to me at any time. I love like talking to people, answering questions, mentoring, bringing resources, anything like that. Please reach out to me. However, I will give my contact info to our master agent here.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, so let's do takeaways really quick. Key takeaways. Make it a point to give back and help others. Career long-term, job is now. There's a difference. Choose a job that you love. Learn how to study. Use your individual skills to develop a good work ethic. Turn one day into today. Change starts now. Start by making good habits. Never criticize. Always be curious. Fail. Fail. You have to try to succeed. Success is something you attract, not something you pursue. Be an attractive person. Work on yourself. Nourish your soul and mind. Be thankful. Start investing early. The only person stopping you is yourself. Anything you want to add to those before we wrap up?
I think anything else would just be kind. Like, when in doubt, be kind. Kill them with kindness. If some girl's annoying you, like, just be kind and try to see. So my mom says, try to, like in Spanish, she says, like, try to see like God in the eyes of every passing stranger. And so it's just like, give people the benefit of the doubt, treat them with kindness, no matter what, no matter the situation. And it will, I promise you, you will never regret treating someone with kindness. You may regret treating them any other way. Treat others with kindness and treat yourself. Be kind to yourself. A little voice in your head, tell it to be kind, or else you're going to turn it off.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Andrea. Thank you so much for your time and sharing your amazing journey with us and all of the wonderful things you're doing. And we're excited to hear about your graduation and all the other fabulous things you're bringing on. So
Thank you.
Posted.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honestly, I'm honored that I was even asked to speak to this group of girls. And so I'm excited. I'm excited to see where they go. I'll be following your journey too, by the way. So
thank you. We're super grateful for you. And until next time, see us at WhizGirlsAcademy.com. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.